and both my feet just completely slid out from the bottom of me. All right, if there's one thing I've learned about the roofing industry, especially when I first started, is one that is very lucrative, but it comes with a catch. It is extremely dangerous, and I had to learn this the hard way. Some people, they see, steep roof, walking up a 30-foot ladder. Oh, it's probably dangerous. For me, it took me learning a few hard lessons to be able to understand how dangerous the job actually is. And I remember, when I first started, my boss, he tried to get me acclimated. He tried to get me on all these steep roofs. He bought us, harnesses, ropes, all the good safety gear to kind of get us on every single type of roof. Super old ones that are really degranulated, super, new, fresh ones, anything he could do to just kind of get us experience. And so I remember the first time I ever went on and did an entire job by myself, didn't have my boss with me. It went pretty well. We did the inspection, got up there. So we got the roof marked up, and it was time for the adjuster to come out. And I remember, I think it was a Sunday afternoon, probably like 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, something like that. One of those, like, it was the adjuster's last meeting of the day. And this guy shows up, and it was me and one of my buddies who I was now training, because, apparently the first time you do something by yourself, you're good enough to train a new employee. And so he's getting on the roof with me. I'm trying to show him, hey, this is what we do with adjusters. And I remembered what my boss taught me about adjusters. And what I noticed that he would do is, if the adjuster asks you to do something, you just do it. It's only going to improve your chances and the homeowner's chance of getting the roof approved. And so I took that and ran with it. I was like, hey, I set up your ladder. We got all these pictures we already took. He was like, yeah, that's cool, man. Let's get up there. Let's go mark it up. And so I'm following him around, and it was a pretty steep roof, maybe about 40 squares, and it had these two pitches on the left and right side of the roof that were about a 12 pitch. So it was pretty steep, and I was still maybe like 3 months into walking on roofs. I didn't really have much experience walking on a 12 pitch without a rope. I'd only walked on it with a rope and with a harness on. And so, we had ropes and harnesses, but we didn't really have a Ridge Pro or anything like that to kind of secure us in. And so I, didn't wear my harness. I didn't see it being necessary, but we went up there with a rope, and we're on the edge of the roof. He marks up the front, marks up the back, and now we're on the left and right slopes with the big 12 pitch. And the adjuster, he's kind of a bigger guy. He's not, I can definitely see something in his eye. He's like not really wanting to walk down there. And he just kind of looks at me, and he's like, son, he's like, you can mark this up. We'll be on our way. We'll write it up. And I'm like, oh, he's going to buy the roof. He's going to write it up. He's going to approve it. Let me just go down here and do this real quick. And then the left side had some algae growing on it. So start walking on it. He was holding the rope at the top. Definitely not OSHA approved way of doing this. And I'm walking, I have my chalk, holding onto the rope, marking the shingle, and I'm like, all right, this is pretty easy, I got this. Then he flips over to the other side, and that side had no algae growing on it. And it was completely just granulars everywhere. You could see in the gutter where like a pool of maybe 2 inches of granulars had just stacked up in the gutters. And I take a few steps on it. I'm like, oh, this is a little slippery. I should probably be careful. And I went down to mark the first shingle, and like an idiot, I started all the way on the edge, so there was nothing to grab on except the edge of the house. And I went down, and I marked the shingle, and I remember right as I marked it, I was like, oh, there is nothing balancing my feet. And both my feet just completely slid out from the bottom of me. And so now it's just me holding on to this rope. I'm now dangling because the guy was sitting in the middle, and I was on the edge. So now I'm like kind of swinging, and I'm just kicking my feet. I'm like, I got to crawl towards the edge. I got to crawl towards this little valley over to the right. And it was only probably a maybe 20 feet, 15 feet drop, but definitely enough to break an ankle, break a collarbone. Or, I mean, if you lay on your head, that could be the last fall you ever have. So I was holding on for dear life. I finally got to the edge, and I was like getting my feet on the gutter. I was like, I will kick off this entire gutter if I have to, if this is going to save my life. And so I grabbed it, got in the little valley and climbed my way back up. And the adjuster was like, man, I think we got enough here. I think that's enough. I'll just take my pictures. It'll be good. And I'm just, dude, what? We only needed one shingle? I would have gone towards the valley if I knew that. So moral of the story, be careful when you're up there, especially if you're new. Always, whatever, as far as the safety measures and everything, do anything you can to make sure you're being safe out there. It's, no amount of money is worth your life. So some of us learned that the hard way. Luckily, I was fortunate enough to get out pretty unscathed. I've had a pretty nasty gash on my leg, but that was about it. So, but thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next one, guys.